70 miles north of Houston on July 24th, 1974.
My dad he got a phone call and he didn't say anything, and he zoomed out of the parking lot.
Three desperate men.
What you are about to see is really a very basic news story about a convict who plans an escape.
Took 15 hostages in the prison library.
The inmate who does the planning in this case is Federico Gomez Carrasco.
Fred's in the education building, he's got a gun.
There's nothing ordinary about this man. Perhaps that explains why this basic story
You're fixing to kill everybody.
turned into such an epic.
Don't take your safety for granted inside a prison.
There was only one way in and one way out of that library. I looked down and blood was coming out of my shoe.
The convicts had 3 guns, ammunition, and hostages.
That's the first time that I actually knew that I was shot.
I think every one of us there knew that we could be killed.
Behind the walls of the State Prison Unit in Huntsville,
We demand 3 bulletproof vests,
3 desperate men armed with guns
3 walkie-talkies, all the same frequency.
staged the most sensational insurrection in Texas prison history.
They believe that he will kill them if he can't come out, and they believe that if they let him out with hostages, he will let them go.
Dear Lord, we pray for her.
Life is but a preparation for death. I'm not afraid, and please tell my family that I am not afraid to die.
Dear Lord, things can be worked out where life can be spared.
Now there's only one way that these people will see the light again, and that's for you to cooperate. You have the power.
It was supposed to be an ordinary July day inside this Texas prison. Controlled, routine, predictable. But by early afternoon, a group of inmates led by a drug kingpin and armed with smuggled guns seized control of the education building, taking more than a dozen hostages, mostly teachers and librarians who were here just to educate the inmates. Hours stretched into 11 days, and when it was over, not everyone walked out. More than 50 years later, the Texas prison siege of 1974 remains one of the longest in U.S. history and still haunts those who have lived with it ever since.
That's our house in Huntsville, Pine Shadows. Theirs was the first lot in that subdivision. This is a good picture of my mother. This is how she, just the way she was. My mother was always smiling. She was always happy.
On July 24th, 1974, Frances Hunter and her father left home before the sun was up.
My dad co-owned and managed a grill that was out at Riverside, and we opened like at 5, and so I would ride out with him. It was in the summer, and that was my summer job.
They were busy working at what was then Carl's Grill, 15 miles outside of town, and hours before her 50-year-old mother, Ann Fleming, left the driveway of their one-story home in Huntsville, Texas, home to the state's oldest prison, the Huntsville Unit, commonly referred to as the Walls because of its distinctive red brick walls. Fleming had been a librarian for years, but it was only her 3rd week on the job with the prison's Wyndham School District. She had a meeting at the Walls. Still getting used to working among inmates, nothing could have prepared her for what was to come. At the cafe, just after the lunch rush, Frances, her father, got a call.
He got a phone call and he didn't say anything, and he zoomed out of the parking lot, in the car, and I was like, that's weird.
It didn't take long for the news to spread. The prison was the city's largest employer, and it seemed everyone had a connection.
A lot of the guards came there and ate, and one of them came in and said, "Your mother's been taken hostage." And I was like, what?
This was his little singing group. This is him. He was a teacher at the Huntsville Unit down there, at the Walls, what we call it. He loved being a teacher. That's the best thing about him. He loved being a teacher.
Anthony Branch Jr., known to family and friends as Jack, was a teacher for the Windham School District after having worked 20 years for Huntsville ISD. Then the Texas Department of Corrections, now known as the Texas Department of Criminal Justice, was just beginning to integrate its workforce. Branch was a trailblazer, though his son says he was focused only on his calling.
He just liked the idea of teaching, helping people. That's what he liked to do. He liked to teach.
It was summer, so 16-year-old Ray was home when the prison called.
I can't remember the person's name. We're from TDC. Is your mother home? I said, no, she's still working, and she'll be home about 3 or 2:30 or 3. And she was home about 3, and they said just come up to the administration building.
It has been confusing. We're never certain exactly what the prison officials are telling us.
The families of a dozen people were summoned to the prison administration building across the street from the tall red brick walls. Fran's father wrote about his car ride there.
Driving and praying, saying, oh God, don't let it be Ann. As the miles went by, fear overcame me.
At 1 p.m. that sweltering July day, 3 inmates armed with guns took control of the education building, which housed the library and classrooms, barricading the doors. The siege, led by feared drug lord Federico Gomez Carrasco, in prison for a bloody shootout with police, but a suspect in dozens of murders.
You could see the pistol. And I knew Fred, but all I said was, there he is, and he's got a gun. And about that time, Fred started shooting.
I had a bullet go through my shirt, the left side of my shirt, and Sergeant Novisky had a bullet hit him in the heel of his foot.
Went through the side of my shoes, underneath my little toe, and exited in the middle of my foot.
And I yelled at the inmates. There were inmates playing basketball and recreating on the yard. I yelled for everybody to clear the yard, and they did. They had heard the shots also. Then I made my way down to the officers' dining room, which was on the lower level, and there were staff in there still eating lunch, and I told them to hold in place. And then I made my way up to the warden's office and reported the situation to him at that time.
And what was his reaction?
Just about the time we were talking, the phone rang, and it was Carrasco calling the warden's office, making his initial demands.
Fred, hello. Now there's only one way that these people will see the light again, and that's for you to cooperate. You have the power.
The official name is the Huntsville Unit. It's located downtown, and it has the red brick walls that go up 30 or 40 feet. And of course, it's a very traditional looking, old penitentiary looking building. And so naturally it acquired the name The Walls.
75 miles north of Houston, just off I-45 and beyond a giant statue of Sam Houston, a Texas founding father, sits the Huntsville Unit.
I think most people know it more as The Walls.
Completed in 1849, it is the state's oldest prison and ingrained in the city of Huntsville.
People in white pants and white shirts. You see them trustees out all the time. They would be working on the gardens around town. There was a Sam Houston Museum. They were always working there, and they were working at the university. I'm sure there were guards around, but you really didn't notice. I mean, it was kind of like, you never felt afraid of them. And I remember it was kind of a joke that if there was ever a breakout, that they wouldn't stay around Huntsville. We didn't have they would probably go to Houston. And they might steal your car, but you wouldn't, we just didn't feel like we had anything to be afraid of the prisoners.
The Central Prison Unit is only 2 blocks from the downtown square of Huntsville.
On July 24th, 1974,
However, every resident of this town is nervously aware of the drama unfolding in the prison.
that sense of security in this small town shifted.
Wondering why things like this have to happen.
Around 1 in the afternoon, 3 inmates, Fred Carrasco, Ignacio Cuevas, and Rudy Dominguez, who were casually reading the newspaper moments earlier, flashed guns and announced they were taking over the prison's education building, home to the library and school classrooms. Situated just off the prison yard, the facility had only one way in and one way out because the windows on the front of the building had recently been bricked over. Glass doors at the top of a steep ramp were the only access point.
Once the inmates that took the hostages secured the doorway, they had control of that.
So of all the structures in the unit, this was an ideal target. Carrasco emerged as the ringleader. He had been plotting for months.
I saw people rushing, and I thought, what's going on? So somebody came across and said, hey, somebody's up there in the library with a gun. I said, oh, God. I knew then something happened, and then it dawned on me. I said, that's Fred Carrasco.
Federico Gomez Carrasco was born in San Antonio in 1940. By the 60s, he was a prominent figure in the South Texas drug trade, overseeing a cocaine and heroin empire along the Texas-Mexico border. He valued family, his wife Rosa, and children, but was ruthless. Authorities in the U.S. and Mexico linking him to as many as 50 murders. In 1972, Carrasco escaped a Mexican prison in a laundry truck. For a year, he outsmarted a police search until they caught up with and cornered him at the El Tejas Motel on San Antonio's south side. He was shot 4 times and captured. The legend of a gunslinging Carrasco would have Mexican folk songs written about him.
I heard 2 or 3 different versions.
Ben Aguilar processed his paperwork.
They're called, in Spanish, they're called corridos.
When he was assigned to the walls to serve a life sentence for trying to kill police officers during that bloody shootout at the motel.
All I knew is that he was the godfather, he was called the godfather of South Texas. Later on, we started getting more information from Bexar County authorities that he was a known killer. He'd killed a lot of his associates. So they told us, just kind of keep a close eye on him because he's very dangerous.
Within 6 months, Carrasco was working as a janitor for the prison chaplain, Father Joseph O'Brien, a Catholic priest. It was a position that gave Carrasco more freedom and privacy within the chapel walls. And it was almost a year to the day since his arrival at the prison that 34-year-old Carrasco decided to make his move. Aided by 27-year-old Rudy Dominguez, described as vicious, and 42-year-old Ignacio Cuevas, who was serving time for murder.
We cleared the yard.
Bruce Nowitzki was the yard sergeant that day.
There was a double glass door that was tinted, bright July day with the sun. There was a little bit of room for the door to open, 6 or 8 inches. And about that time, Fred came from around the side and stood in front of one of the doors, and I could see him from my angle. His white prison uniform, and he had his hand over his chest, and you could see the pistol. And I knew Fred, but all I said was, there he is, and he's got a gun. And about that time, Fred started shooting.
Officers retreated. Initially, there were 15 hostages, 4 inmates, 4 librarians, 5 teachers, the director of education, and 1 guard, Bobby Hurd, who hid in the ceiling for as long as he could. He would later be the target of both Carrasco's ire and confidence.
I have talked to Fred, and Fred trusts me. He does. He trusts me. Okay. He does not trust you.
Then you've got to play the part of the negotiating team, then, Mr. Hurd.
I can't if I'm dead.
When the phone calls started, most of which were recorded, one of Carrasco's first demands was that Father O'Brien be the go-between, because he was the only prison worker who Carrasco said he respected. The good priest agreed and even volunteered to stay, despite the well-known prison policy that no hostage leaves. Contract workers like Jack Branch and Ann Fleming,
this is the hostage policy, what to do if you're taken hostage,
had to sign a waiver.
No prisoner could leave with a hostage. that was the policy. You signed it. You were aware of it the day you signed up to work there. And so the fact was the fact. But so I think that they believed that it would work out okay. Mm-hmm. I mean, my mother didn't. And my mother said that she thought she was going to die.
This building in back of us is the actual prison unit. Inside these walls, Carrasco is holding the hostages.
11 days of uncertainty.
Better chance than I had Tuesday.
We're still ahead.
And if TDC doesn't send them up what they want and give them everything they want, then we're going to die.
People have got to know whether or not their president is a crook.
In the summer of 1974, the Watergate scandal was escalating. 2 years after the break-in at the Democratic National Committee headquarters, the Supreme Court was about to rule on whether 64 White House tape recordings that incriminated President Richard Nixon should be made public. On July 24th, in the middle of impeachment proceedings, the court ordered their release. It would lead to Nixon's resignation.
A new day, and we're exactly where we were at 1 o'clock yesterday when this whole thing started.
But in Huntsville, Texas, near Houston, that history-making news was quickly overshadowed by what was happening closer to home. A standoff between drug lord Fred Carrasco, 2 inmate accomplices, and prison administrators, with the lives of 15 hostages, mostly educators, at stake.
It was totally shocking, because I'm like, why would they, that's exactly what was shocking. They would take the teacher.
It was rumored that one of the hostages had been killed, but this is not true.
The scene soon became a media spectacle. Though born in the U.S., Fred Carrasco felt more comfortable speaking Spanish. So the administration summoned his high-profile attorney, Ruben Montemayor from San Antonio, to act as a mediator.
I said, okay.
And Ben Aguilar from across the street.
Told my co-workers there, said, well, I'm being called to go take up a position up there, so see y'all later.
To translate.
During that time, that's when Fred started calling in, making all kinds of demands. And we just put him off and say, well, Fred, I can't do anything about that. We got to wait for the director. We got to wait for Mr. Estelle to approve all of this. And
what were his demands?
Well, to start with, he said he wanted some high-powered weapons. He wanted bulletproof vests. He wanted what we call the two-way radios. And the more we put off, the more he threatened. So it was really getting tense. The rest of the day was, a lot of just being tense and mainly concerned and afraid for the lives of those people that he was holding. Because by then he'd already told them, I've got so many hostages up here. I've got these three ladies. I got 4 ladies up here, and a couple of other civilian employees there. If you don't start giving us what we want, I'm going to start killing them one by one.
Texas Corrections Director Jim Estelle was on the road to Huntsville. Meantime, Warden Howell Husbands was calling the shots. Across the street, families were anxious.
Just tense. It was tense every day. I don't know how we passed the time. We were just in there being tense with all the adults.
While inside the education building, the hostages were dealing with constant threats.
She said the worst day was the Monday, that day 6, when the Estelle had said that he was going to arrest Rosa, Carrasco's wife, and it really made Carrasco mad. And he made all the hostages were sent into the little office area of the library and handcuffed together, hands and feet, and told to sit on the floor, and she really thought that they were going to be killed at that point.
Say, listen.
With fear and anger in his voice, Bobby Hurd made an emotional plea to officials to leave Carrasco's wife alone. They suspected she was part of an escape plan.
Have y'all put out a warrant for his wife? As an accomplice?
There is a warrant out for Mrs. Carrasco, but
just so he can talk to her.
But the attorney...
Listen, he's fixing to kill us. Please, for God's sake. This is human life. He was being everything he said he was. Now you're fixing to get us killed. Withdraw that warrant, please.
Beg your pardon?
Withdraw that warrant. For God's sake, man.
Authorities later agreed to withdraw the arrest warrant, and Rosa Carrasco was never charged in an escape plot. Over the next few days, the number of hostages dwindled. One inmate jumped through the plate glass doors and escaped. The director of education, Glenn Johnson, suffered a heart attack, and Carrasco agreed to free him so he could be hospitalized. Librarian Aline House faked heart trouble. She was freed too. But on the third day, Ann Fleming's mother, who had been ill, died. Carrasco showed no mercy, and Fran says her mother didn't push him to let her go.
The first few days, it was very hard to know what to say to those people because, they had to raise their hands to move, or and so I think that she felt like that she couldn't make demands.
Instead, a 17-year-old Fran represented her family at her grandmother's funeral in Tennessee.
5:30 in the morning here in Huntsville.
While back home, her mother and all the hostages were under constant duress.
Completely dark here. There were only a few guards standing in front of the wall.
As everyone else waited on pins and needles for something to happen.
They've now formed a ring.
As the days wore on, Carrasco manipulated the hostages who, in phone conversations with their families and the media, painted a favorable picture of the ringleader.
Can you trust Fred Carrasco?
We have found him in even every small thing that he has said to us. We have found him to back this up. Now, what he's done in the past, we know nothing about.
Just treated us like ladies and gentlemen here the whole time.
And they blamed TDC for dragging the standoff out.
Everybody's passing the buck. And, it's a critical situation, and it becomes more critical every hour. We're just pawns in the game. And TDC's playing a waiting game, and the time for waiting is over. It's just over.
Yes, and if TDC doesn't send them up what they want and give them everything they want, then we're going to die.
They believe that he will kill them if he can't come out, and they believe that if they let him out with hostages, he will let them go.
In turn, their families pleaded for prison officials to just give Carrasco what he wanted, his freedom.
Carrasco wanted to feed his ego, to get an opportunity to get his message across.
In attempts to further control the narrative, Carrasco often spoke over the phone to reporters.
We've heard rumors that you've killed 40, 50, 30, 20 people. How many people have you killed, if any?
Well, there's no sense in
going into that then.
No.
When do you think that? When do you think all this is going to end, Mr. Carrasco?
Well, I believe that if the administration is willing, I believe it could be settled today.
It could be settled. Yeah. If it isn't settled today, you think it'll be tomorrow, the day after that, or what's going to happen? Is it just going this way for a while?
Well, I have no idea.
Do you have any immediate plans to harm any of the hostages?
Well, the only way I will harm the hostages or kill them is if they provoke me.
If they provoke you?
Yes.
But
like yesterday, they provoked me.
The hostages provoked you?
No.
Oh, you mean the officials?
Officials, yes. They're trying to play games with me. And they're insulting my intelligence.
The prison gave the hostage takers a TV and 15 sets of handcuffs on the first day. in exchange for the release of dozens of inmates who just happened to be in the education building during the takeover. But Carrasco wanted more: guns, bulletproof vests, and walkie-talkies for an escape. The first delivery, he told the reporter, was unacceptable.
And they sent me 3 walkie-talkies. If you have any children, maybe... I have 2 girls. Well, maybe they don't have a walkie-talkie, but... well, they did. I gave it to them for Christmas. And you more or less know what type of... they would have a lot of fun playing with them. They carry about 1 mile. And that's the type of things that irritate me, because we're not playing games. I mean, this is a serious thing.
Fred, have you considered, say, shooting one of the hostages just to show the prison people you're not bluffing?
Yes.
You have?
Yes, but I've held myself back, and I've held my companions back, because actually it's hard to shoot an innocent person.
There were many more phone calls to reporters and hostage family members, conversations that were both practical.
What clothes did you send me? I sent blue pants, red pants, blue top, white top. Okay.
And painful.
We're just hanging on, but like I told the kids, I'm resigned to it. Whatever has to be, will be, and I'm not afraid anymore, and I think it's in God's hands.
Though barricaded in the education building of the Huntsville Unit and under constant threat of violence, the hostages were not cut off from the outside. Fred Carrasco, a violent drug smuggler who led the takeover, allowed them to speak to their families every day.
Mama? Well, hello, hello. How are y'all?
Oh, we're doing great.
Have y'all about given us up?
No, we got all the faith in the world. How you doing?
Well, I'm fine.
Now, come on.
I'll stop in a minute, honest I will. You know me, I'm going to cry sometimes.
The ringleader who wanted his freedom also spoke to reporters, building a rapport, telling them of his plans while concerned about his image.
And you would still have the hostages?
No.
Well, you said you were going to keep the hostages. You got to save soil, the reason.
Well, I'm leaving 7 and I'm taking 4 with me.
That's what I say.
And the 4 I'm taking will be volunteers.
And they would go on the submarine with you?
Yes.
And are you serious about the submarine?
No, of course not. I'm only kidding.
You would probably use a helicopter then to get to Cuba rather than a submarine, huh? Or a high-speed boat. It'd have to be one or the other.
If they storm this place, everybody dies.
Yeah. Suppose they don't storm the place but don't give in to all your demands. What would happen? Would everybody still die?
That's the same thing.
Same thing, Good. Is there any other thing that I have not asked you about that you think I should tell the world?
The thing is, we'd like to tell the people that I am not the animal they painted me to be.
The plan was to escape to Cuba. He and his accomplices thought Fidel Castro would give them sanctuary, but first they had to make it beyond the prison walls.
This morning, the city of Huntsville started bringing in a makeshift shelter to place on the prison grounds for the benefit of the news media to help protect us from some of the elements.
Reporters descended on this small town and the siege became national news. Locals gathered just beyond the police roadblocks to watch. Law enforcement officers on the perimeter were heavily armed. Was there an end in sight? TDC Director Jim Estelle briefed the media.
The inmates who are involved in this act have already been told, were told many days ago, that we would not furnish any body armor, nor would they ever be furnished any additional firepower.
Carrasco's high-profile attorney, Ruben Montemayor, had hopped on his private plane to fly from San Antonio to Huntsville to act as a mediator, at times begging his client to keep his cool.
Don't close the door, Fred. I advise you as your lawyer, don't close the doors, Fred. Don't get mad. Don't blow up.
Estelle was in charge, and Warden Howell Husbands and FBI agent Bob Wyatt were in the inner circle. They called it the think tank. Texas Governor Dolph Briscoe was brought in on a conference call at Carrasco's request.
Governor, he wants to know if you're going to cooperate or not. This is all now. I think this is all he wants to know right now.
Well, certainly we're going to. We have cooperated to be sure that no one endangers his safety. or the safety of any of the others that are there. I have been assured by the officials there that they are not going to in any way endanger his safety, that he will be safe.
On that same call, the hostages begged the governor to give in to the demands. They weren't sure how patient the inmates would be.
Please, Governor. Are you there?
Yes, he's listening.
Please. We all have children. We're just teachers. Please, Governor Briscoe, please. We're only human beings. We only have a few minutes to live, and they should have informed you. We're just teachers, and we have children at home, and they're fixing to kill everybody.
After taking over the library, Carrasco barricaded the entrance with a large filing cabinet and forced hostages to take turns sitting on a chair on top of it.
At first it was the guard that they caught, and then it was my dad, because he was on the phone with a reporter and he gave too much information, and they got mad at it.
An act of control to deter rescue attempts for all to see. The rest of the 1,900 inmates were confined to their cells for the length of the siege, foregoing hot meals and showers for days.
And mostly had sack lunches.
Any sudden movement or sound near the third floor had Carrasco ready to fire. For his .357 Magnum, Carrasco had hundreds of rounds of ammunition, undetected because they were taped to his legs, hidden under his pants. One hostage suffered a flesh wound from a flying bullet. Guard Bobby Hurd was shot at when Carrasco was mad.
Valium about, yes, Mr. Carrasco, about the same amount as yesterday?
About the same amount as yesterday. Yeah, about the same amount.
TDC filled requests for Valium to calm the hostages. While Carrasco wanted to hurry things up, prison officials were intentionally slowing them down.
Mr. Estelle just kind of held off and said, let's just go little by little. Let's keep him calm. Let's make like we're going to give it to him, but hold off, just give him a little taste of it and then the other, and entice him to get to think about other things.
Inside the library, the inmates were hard at work building a shield.
Some guard shouted out, here's the taco, and somebody said, it's a Trojan horse.
A contraption that resembled a Trojan horse designed to give them and the hostages they were taking with them cover during their mad dash to freedom.
I'm going out of here. Whether it's alive or dead, I'm going out.
Hi, how are you doing? Oh, I'm still alive. One more day we were allowed.
The image presented by the news people here on the front lawn of the prison is deceiving.
As the standoff dragged on, Fred Carrasco and his inmate accomplices Rudy Dominguez and Ignacio Cuevas set Cuba as their destination after an escape.
But I believe that the Castro regime would recognize or would sympathize after I told them about my life and the injustice which has been done to me since I was 16 years old.
Carrasco's criminal history actually dated back to when he was 15. In July 1974, he wanted his latest stint behind bars for attempted murder to be short-lived. Carrasco demanded expensive suits to replace their white prison uniforms, bulletproof vests, walkie-talkies, weapons, and 3 helmets to protect against sniper attempts during an escape. Prison director Jim Estelle supplied $1,300 in suits and nice shoes. The helmets were crafted in the prison. Carrasco was particular about what he wanted.
The welder is here, sitting right next to me. Now, if you want to, I'll pass him the phone so that you can give him a detailed description of exactly what you want, because they don't want to make any mistake.
They weighed 33 pounds and looked like a Hollywood prop.
They're kind of like these futuristic looking things. How would you describe it?
They look like something from a Buck Rogers space movie.
if you can imagine what a welding helmet looked like.
Maurice Cook was a Texas Ranger.
And they cut a little slit in front. We were glad that they wanted those, and the reason was because they restricted their vision. All they could see was what through that little slit. Second thing was Warden Pursley took a welding torch and tempered the side of those helmets so that we could shoot through those, and we were told to shoot through the side, don't shoot through the front. And Carrasco tested the front, and the bullet bounced off. But if he had done it over the ear, it might have penetrated it.
Cook grabbed 4 vests, which were ceramic at the time.
This is the front part, and you can feel when you got all of that.
Wow. Jumped in his car and responded to the Walls unit when news of the standoff broke. He would be there till the end as a young Texas Ranger, keeping his opinions about strategy to himself. He recalls prison officials considering using dynamite to storm the back of the building.
And we felt like that was a death trap to go through the front, so we were going to blow the windows out in the back where they had been bricked up. In fact, there was 2 times that we hooked up with the dynamite, because one time when Carrasco was testing the helmets, and he fired into the helmets and so forth, and said he shot somebody, and of course we hooked up, ready to go. We were going to blow it.
They never did. Carrasco threatened to use bombs.
I'm going out of here. Whether it's alive or dead, I'm going out.
8 days in, the notorious drug lord with a ruthless reputation asked for an armored car to be parked in the yard, ready to go. He and his accomplices were busy building a mobile shield, which resembled a Trojan horse, using blackboards as walls, reinforced with law books.
With yards and yards of duct tape. And anybody that's seen a law book knows how thick they are, 3 or 4 inches thick or maybe thicker. And they were double stacked, if I remember right. And it was a menacing figure.
It was on wheels to be used as protection as they moved from the building to their getaway car. What they didn't know was that the gas tank wouldn't be full, and there was no intention of letting them leave.
They were just trying to make him think he was going to be able to get away.
That's correct. You know, the false impression, but Mr. Estelle said from the very beginning that even if my family, and I heard him say this, even if my family come up there, he said, we're not, and they're hostages, we're not releasing anyone out of this prison.
I don't know how long we can last.
The hostages were growing weary.
If they don't do what they're supposed to tomorrow, then the guys are tired of waiting, you know. And the time is up, so it'll be shootout at OK Corral, you know. But I'm resigned to it, and I'm not afraid.
The end was near. When 3 inmates led by infamous South Texas drug smuggler Fred Carrasco took over the education building in July 1974, they threatened to shoot or blow up hostages with homemade bombs if their demands for an escape attempt were not met.
Esta gente no sabe lo preparado que estoy. Yo tengo este asunto bien preparado, tengo para las bombas, tengo para todo, ya está todo listo. Así es de que ya saben que si no van a mandarme los chalecos, yo sé que ya se acabó todo.
The 34-year-old who dreamed of reuniting with his wife and children wanted safe passage out of the oldest Texas prison. After more than a week of threats, they exchanged offers.
This is Mrs. Pollard. Could I speak to my daughter Kathy, please?
Hostage Novella Pollard and her 18-year-old daughter Kathy read each sides.
The Texas Department of Corrections.
The Texas Department of Corrections,
Through its director,
comma,
W, period, J, period, Estelle, comma, Jr.
Comma, W.J. Estelle, Jr.
Comma.
Comma.
Accepts
The
withdrawal
of the demands
for the bulletproof vest for the bulletproof vests. All right, number 2. Number 2. The offer to withdraw. The offer to withdraw the complaint. The complaint against Rosa Carrasco. Against Rosa Carrasco. In exchange for the safe return of all the hostages still stands.
Kathy acted as a spokesperson for Carrasco. No one wanted to upset him. She delivered the latest negotiations to the press.
Just a minute, Fred. Let's get just one thing connected here.
4 hostages would be going with Carrasco and company, he told reporters.
I only plan to take 4 with me on a voluntary basis. They've already volunteered. I will not say the name because this would only put more pressure on the families, I believe.
Teacher Yvonne Von Beseda, librarian Judy Stanley, Principal Novella Pollard, and Father Joseph O'Brien volunteered, and they put it in writing.
We, the following hostages, Von Beseda, Novella Pollard, Judy Stanley, have volunteered to be the ones to accompany Carrasco and his companions.
We are aware that this is the only way out of this building, and we feel our chances for survival lie in this plan and this plan only, and only is underlined.
That was a conscious decision that they made to be in that position. What do you think about that? They've been called heroes.
Honorable, very honorable.
They were so brave. And those 2 ladies were really best friends. And it was just sad. It was just so sad.
The remaining hostages agreed to be human shields for Carrasco and his men. They were tired of being held captive. Their captors worked out everyone's positions both inside and outside the contraption they built, and they practiced. The 4 volunteers would be handcuffed to the inmates inside the so-called Trojan taco, which resembled a Trojan horse. The others would be handcuffed to an old volleyball net around the outside. Then Carrasco released Linda Woodman, a tough-as-nails prison librarian. She sprinted down the ramp and was greeted by applause from prison employees. Her job was to personally deliver the logistics of the escape plan to prison officials so that nothing got in the inmates' way. For the other side, it was a reconnaissance opportunity.
It's 2 blackboards, the way I understand,
Yeah.
that are up on rollers.
They're green. They've put cardboard around the bottom, so you won't be able to see whose legs are whose. 7 will be
that's what I mean.
inside.
7, it's 4 and 3. And you're going to be all handcuffed with alleged bombs. You're going to be guided by the other 9. They're going to wheel you down the ramp en masse, get in this truck with live TV coverage. Open up the end and everybody will unload right into that truck.
Law enforcement and prison administrators debriefed Woodman for hours to learn every detail about the building, the shield they built, Carrasco's mental state, and that of the hostages, and what everyone was wearing.
They all have their coats and ties off, the hostages do.
Right.
In other words, I guess what I'm saying is if you had all of them lined up, would Fred and his party look different than the other ones?
They're the only ones dressed in suits.
Today, beginning this morning, news was released again.
After 10 days, it seemed something would finally happen.
Some of the developments which were told to us late last night.
The hostages were desperate to get out, but aware it could be disastrous. They shared their wisdom and life lessons with family.
And remember, the rest of your life, that life is very valuable. Yes, ma'am. And don't waste your life because, it's something you can't buy.
Is that the main thing you feel like you've learned?
Yeah, and faith, you know, it's not in your hands. And
There's definitely a God now.
yeah, love each other and don't worry about material things, you know. And don't be petty arguments and little petty things, you know. Little arguments that get in the way of families being close together. They're not important. Life is very simple and very precious. And y'all be very strong. Okay. You too. I just hope we can be as strong as you.
I've been told to call you, tell you goodbye.
And they said their goodbyes in case it was the last time.
I love you very much, and thank you for the. I love you. Thank you for the wonderful life we've had together. I want you to know how much I appreciate everything.
All of that activity last night, and it looked as if we were so close to a conclusion, maybe even a violent ending. But then nothing happened. It all quietened until 7 this morning. That's when Carrasco and company started new talks with prison officials.
On day 11 of the Texas prison siege, prison officials and law enforcement prepared for the worst.
Contacts have been made. The negotiations have been reopened.
I think every one of us there knew that we could be killed.
Maurice Cook, a young Texas Ranger, had been there from the start, doing 12-hour shifts and sleeping on beds TDC set up outside.
And we actually had mattresses on the ground, and we were behind the library, and of course, you know, there's no windows, so they couldn't see us. And we were just laying down the ground, or laying on those mattresses.
The day before, Linda Woodman, the prison librarian, bolted down the ramp to deliver Carrasco's escape plan to prison officials. He wanted as little interference as possible, and he thought by being transparent, they'd have a better chance.
Well, we knew everything about it, but Carrasco wanted us to, you know. He didn't have any problem with us knowing that he's going to have so many people inside the shield, and the other ones are going to be handcuffed and roped to the outside of the shield. But he had 4 people on the inside of the shield, and you know, the shield was made out of these chalkboards that were on wheels back then. They used it in classrooms. And he had 2 of those, and then he used some other things, boards or whatever he had available.
Around 1 in the afternoon, Carrasco allowed the hostages to make their final phone calls. Ann Fleming talked to her husband about her paycheck and requested clothes. Vaughn Beseda told her daughter she wanted to go on vacation. And Novella Pollard joked to her daughter. She was among the 4 who would be handcuffed to the convicts.
When you plan on getting back?
Fred said it within 24 hours.
Okay. Y'all are just going to call and tell us where you're at?
He says we'll be in constant contact with you.
Okay, that's great. Yeah. So wherever you are, we'll just stick tight and we'll come get you.
Okay.
Or we'll send you money and you can do whatever you have to.
We'll get back some way.
I know you will.
If to hitchhike, we'll get back.
Yeah, even if you have to hitchhike, man.
See us all out there
Can't you see 3
hitchhiking?
little ladies hitchhiking?
Father.
Carrasco sent a series of notes, one breaking down the cash, more than $2,000, that he took from the hostages and instructed his lawyer to reimburse them. Another note revealed who would be where in the Trojan Taco. By 6 that evening, the armored truck was delivered to the yard, and Carrasco sent one of the inmate hostages to inspect it. Behind the scenes, TDC officials were planning how they would intercept the inmates and their captives with as few casualties as possible, and they settled on using water hoses in an initial attack.
The plan, as it was originally composed, was to direct high-pressure water hoses at the taco when it came down the ramp and tip it over with the high pressure. And then hopefully use the high-pressure hoses to disarm the inmates at the same time.
Just before 9:30 that night, with the prison guard and one of 3 inmate hostages at the front, the rickety Trojan Taco started down the steep, winding ramp. The screeching of the wheels echoed in the yard. The 3 women and priest had guns in their backs inside, while the 8 hostages circling it guided the heavy vehicle. A film camera set up across the way, capturing the dramatic climax. Chris Cook was part of the assault team. They moved in, he says, when the water hoses came loose, significantly weakening the water pressure.
The captain goes out the door first. The second captain was G.W. Burks, went out the door. The FBI agent went out the door. Winston went out the door. I went out the door, and there was about 5 of us out there, and then we pulled back. And by then, the water had broke, and the captains are standing there thinking, what are we doing? We were just shooting. And we were shooting high, so we told the hostages to get down. So we shot high into the shield. But I don't know what we're doing. We just had to do something.
Dozens of shots were fired by both sides. FBI agent Bob Wyatt and 2 Texas Rangers captains were hit in their bulletproof vests and still returned to the gunfight. In a hail of bullets, a TDC lieutenant ran up the ramp and cut the hostages on the outside loose. All got away safely. There was another round of water, the gunfire from inside stopped, and when the contraption finally toppled over, it revealed the dead.
Gunfire started, and when it was over, 2 of the women hostages were dead.
Almost like a D-Day invasion, just going up that ramp blind. And
Bruce Nowitzki, who was shot in the foot on the first day, knew both Judy Stanley and Von Bessida.
He killed 2 ladies that I knew. Yeah.
The 2 women were killed, shot by their captors. Father O'Brien was seriously wounded. Novella Pollard survived unharmed. Accomplice Rudy Dominguez was fatally shot in the aftermath as he lay on the ground. And ringleader Fred Carrasco took his own life, living up to his promise.
Because I'm going out of here. Whether it's alive or dead, I'm going out.
The 3rd inmate accomplice, Ignacio Cuevas, was unconscious but alive. The outcome was somber news.
There was no alternative at all. It was the fact that the hostages told us themselves that they'd already told them they was going to kill them when they got down.
Prison officials and police officers swarmed the scene.
It wasn't a pretty sight. It was a terrible smell. You could smell the gunfire, or the powder, or the gunpowder, or whatever, and the blood, and everything. Everything was, and the smoke, of course. Everything was just. It was like being in a battlefield.
Carrasco and Dominguez were stripped naked in a search for concealed weapons or bombs, and families of the surviving hostages were updated.
Do you remember that emotion?
Just relief. Yeah, it was just so thankful, and I just, I think I felt it's about time.
I have great faith in the Department of Correction.
Just before 9:30 on the night of August 3rd, 1974, the siege at the prison in downtown Huntsville, Texas, came to a bloody end.
No one is happy with the result when we lose 2 lives.
2 hostages, Yvonne Bessida and Judy Stanley, handcuffed to their captors, were killed as soon as the first round of water hit the so-called Trojan taco. Fred Carrasco took his own life, and his henchman, Rudy Dominguez, lying under Chaplain Father O'Brien, was still alive, for now.
And he said, which one's Carrasco? And I said, that one. And that one was not Carrasco, that was Dominguez, and he shot Dominguez inside the head and shot him in the forehead. Of course, all of these inmates were armed and still active, we felt like.
The chaplain was taken to the prison hospital with a gunshot wound to his arm.
And really what we wanted was to get out of that building. We would take our chances in the shootouts.
You did expect a shootout, is that right?
It was a massive game of patience.
Within a couple hours, the surviving hostages were reunited with their families after 11 days of uncertainty.
I wish the events of last week had never happened, but I realized TDC's responsibilities and hold no malice toward any of the officials who made the decision to prevent Carrasco's escape.
We knew that they could not get into that building. We knew that we didn't believe that Fred would give up. So we felt like that we had to get out of that building and take our chances, which we would rather have done.
He had on blue pants and a white t-shirt. And he had his arms like this.
Brendan Kelly, Jack Branch's nephew, remembers the flood of emotion as if it were yesterday.
That was a great day. It was sad, but it was also great for our family.
The funerals for Von Bessida and Judy Stanley were packed. Two brave women who were optimistic until the end.
If we got out of this alive, that in 5 years we were going to have a reunion. See y'all soon.
The surviving gunman.
One accomplice, Ignacio Cuevas, survived. He was charged with capital murder. His trial was moved to Houston on a change of venue. Burt Graham.
We talked to literally hundreds of potential jurors. And
was a chief prosecutor in Harris County.
He was prosecuted under what they call the felony murder law, which basically says if you participate as a member of a group that commits a felony, regardless of what part you played in that felony, then if you could reasonably anticipate that one of your partners might kill someone, then you're just as guilty of murder as they are.
Cuevas' attorney argued that he didn't know the hostages would be shot, and since he didn't kill them himself, he should be found not guilty. During closing arguments, Graham donned one of those heavy steel helmets to make a point. It turned out to be one of the lighter moments in the trial.
So I'm arguing, why would they order this to be made and put it on unless they were expecting gunfire? And if they were expecting gunfire, then they were expecting that people would be killed. Therefore, he anticipated that people would be killed. Therefore, you answer yes. So I thought that made a really good point. Why would they order this? And then I went to take it off so I could finish my argument, and it wouldn't come off. It was stuck on my glasses, and I kept pushing it up. It wouldn't come off. So, I thought, just don't panic. So I thought I could put my head upside down on the table and take the pressure off the glasses and probably get it off, but I'd look too silly. I don't want to lose the mood. So I just finished my argument with the helmet on.
Cuevas was convicted of capital murder 3 times. The first 2 verdicts were thrown out due to issues with jury selection procedures, but all 3 juries reached the same conclusion: guilty. And on May 23rd, 1991, 17 years after the murders of Von Bessida and Judy Stanley, the only surviving hostage taker was put to death by lethal injection.
Were you there for that?
I was.
Wayne Scott, who was nearly shot by Carrasco in 1974 on the first day of the siege, would go on to be TDCJ's executive director, the top job. He witnessed the execution.
He went quietly.
Did he say anything?
I don't recall him saying hardly anything. He was very quiet anyway. But he remained at the walls the whole time. He was in segregation there.
An investigation answered the big question: how did 3 inmates inside a prison get a hold of guns to start the standoff? It was found that Carrasco enlisted an outside trustee, an inmate with special privileges due to good behavior, who was allowed to work outside prison walls, and that Carrasco's gang threatened to kill his family if he didn't cooperate. The drug lord's reputation as a mass killer was well known. The trustee confessed that a Carrasco operative delivered him 2 .357 Magnums, one .38 caliber revolver, and hundreds of rounds of ammunition. Getting them in took bulk-sized cans of peaches, a hollowed-out ham, and some creativity.
I was able to smuggle the ammunition in a can of peaches, and then some of the pistols came in a carved-out ham.
It changed the whole.
David Stacks is a former Texas prison warden.
What all was learned from this incident?
Well, I think obviously I would hope to say that this administration is still practicing and learning and teaching their staff at whatever procedure is written, whatever the policy is, there's a reason for it. In this particular case, had that officer just done what he was supposed to have done at that back gate, we wouldn't be talking about this incident, particularly with gunfire anyhow.
We were way undertrained. We were, under-organized. The only thing we were told, we didn't even get a good briefing on it, except here's what we're going to do. When they get down to this point, we're going out that door. And once again, once we got out the door, what we're going to do.
Maurice Cook, now a county sheriff, says the siege led to better SWAT training for Texas Rangers. With civilian casualties due to a major security breach, the entire system was forced to look inward.
People looked at their internal security, not only at the Huntsville Unit, but all over the system, I think very, very closely. I don't think any of us really thought something like that would ever occur. And when it did occur and there was a loss of life, it's very sobering and it makes you take stock of your situation. And I think that occurred throughout the system, everywhere.
Dearest Herman and Fran,
what does one write when time might be running out?
Just in case, I wanted you to know how much I love you both.
More than a week into the standoff inside Texas's oldest prison, hostage Ann Fleming drafted a letter.
It has been a real good life together, and I feel that I must accept whatever happens as God's will for my life. Be good to each other and love each other for me too. It just sounds so much like her.
Heartfelt in the beginning.
Herman, get Dr. Burt to help straighten out the TALA and other library stuff on my desk.
Business at the end.
There are letters written to those 2 publishers that I owe money to. See if you can get the returns reconciled with what I sold. Herman, I guess this time I won't return. Love, Ann. That was my mom. That was the way she was. How would you even know what to say, in a situation like this? And it's just amazing that she was able to. It's just a beautiful letter, I think.
She and the other hostages wrote letters to their loved ones throughout the 11-day ordeal as they faced their mortality. Carrasco, the man who started it all in an attempt to escape, wrote letters too.
The one he wrote, Mother, says, since the 9 days I've had the honor of knowing Ann Fleming, and through her having had the opportunity of talking with her husband, for me it has been an honor and joy to know this lovely couple.
The words of a cold-blooded killer who disrupted an institution and created so much heartache.
While I live, I will remember this couple as I remember my dear parents with all love and respect. Federico Gomez Carrasco.
Well, we just praise God. And that's
my mother would say, that's interesting, And I mean, I think she was glad that her and my dad, and we were able to give a positive impression onto him. But in my opinion, it's disgusting.
I knew they would never serve. I knew it, and so did TDC. Did we think they would kill us? Yes, we did.
Fran's mother, who had been on the job just 24 days, would give speeches to church and community groups about her time in captivity at the walls.
It was then I turned to God for help. I knew that I needed courage.
She never went back there to work.
She was sad. She was sad. She was a redhead. She was always joking and, fun person. But it took a while for that to come back.
Moving on. He just compartmentalized it and moved on.
Jack Branch did return to Windham, the prison school district, for another 22 years.
Perfect attendance, see?
For many of them, he didn't miss a day of work.
Do you think that what he went through affected him? Like changed him a little bit?
Yeah, it changed him. He just wouldn't say how. That's the thing, he wouldn't ever talk about. It definitely changed him. But how it changed him is what he wouldn't talk about. So that we never knew.
More than 50 years later, what happened at the walls is an exhibit at the Texas Prison Museum.
Incident started at 1:00 p.m.
where David Stacks is now the director after 3 decades as a warden and correctional officer with TDCJ.
No, it's not something that we hang our hat on. It's you know, as a prison system, it's not anything that we like to you know, boast about. If anything, we're embarrassed by it, but we also learn from it. And if you don't learn from your mistakes, then shame on you.
In 1999, on the 25th anniversary of the last day of the siege, the education building at the walls, which has been updated with additional exits and fire escapes, was renamed the Stanley Beseda Education Facility for the 2 women who lost their lives.
They just showed some extreme strength, knowing that they probably were not going to survive that, and tried to keep their family at peace. Tried to give them confidence that everything's going to be okay. That speaks a lot to their character, because you got to remember, most of their children were high school age, or maybe even junior high age. So they went to their deaths loving and caring for their family.
Most, if not all of those who survived those 11 days have now passed. Men and women who did not set out to be heroes, though history would remember them that way.
They were normal, everyday people, and they did their best to survive. They were courageous, and they spent 11 days with men who wanted to kill them, and they may have made mistakes, but they did the best they could. My mother would always say, every single person has some sort of trauma in their life, some suffering and things that they do that happen to them that is just, it may not be as exciting or as traumatic as what happened to my mom, but you have to go through it. And I think they were good examples of people who went through it with bravery and courage.